Hey guys, welcome to video lesson number 2. This one's going to be all about arc length and sector area. This is my second time making this video because the first one came out so long, so I'm going to try to go a little bit more quickly through this with you. But if you have any questions as you're watching this, just make sure you rewind to whatever example you're looking at. Cool. So for number 1, we're going to find the circumference. Number 2, we're going to find the area, and this is for the whole circle. We're going to use 3.14 as the value of pi. Cool. So these two you already know how to do, so I'm just going to go over those formulas really quick. Circumference is equal to pi times diameter. Now, they give us the radius here is 6. Now remember that diameter is all the way across, so just double that. 6 times 2 gives you a diameter of 12. Substitute that in, that's pi times 12. I can also write that as 12 pi, and then multiply that by 3.14. That should give you, let me do the math there, so calculator, multiply by 12 times 3.14, that should give you exactly 37.68 inches. Okay, cool. So that's it for circumference. Distance around the circle, you are finding circumference. Pi times diameter. In this case, we get 37.68. Alright. Number 2 asks us for the area of the circle. So in other words, how much space is on the inside of the circle. So for that, the formula we use is pi times radius squared. Now notice this time they give you the diameter is 22, which means the radius is half of that. So half of 22 would be a radius of 11 inches. Now I go over here and plug that in. A equals pi times 11 squared. 11 squared gives me 121 times pi. In this case, we turn that into 121 times 3.14, which comes out to 379.94. And since this is area, units would be inches squared. Not inches, but inches squared. Okay, so those two formulas are important for arc length and sector area. The circumference formula and the area formula. Cool. Now we're going to do one of each. So for number 3, let's practice finding arc length. So arc length, we want to know, instead of the distance around the whole circle, what is the distance around just this arc? So for arc length, it's very much related to circumference, but the difference is this is not a whole circle. This is equal to a fraction of a circle. So that fraction, we can determine its size by doing number of degrees over 360. So in this case, the arc is worth 240 degrees out of 360, and in this case, the radius is equal to 12. Now, since we want diameter, just double that number. Diameter would be equal to 24 yards. So when I start to work that out, that's going to be pi times 24 times 240 over 360. Okay, now I didn't mention this yet, but with this example, we're going to leave our answer in terms of pi. In other words, we're going to leave pi as a symbol. We're not going to change it like we did over here. The reason we're doing that is because if we need to, we can always change pi at the very end when we're done. For now, though, we're just going to leave it as the symbol. So I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this as 24 pi. And then for that fraction part, the 240 over 360, let's simplify that. So 240 over 360. I see that those zeros can cancel to give me 24 over 36. Now, 24 and 36 are both divisible by 12. So I'm going to divide by 12. That's going to give me 24 divided by 12 is 2. 36 divided by 12 is 3. So that fraction of 240 over 360 is equivalent to 2/3. Okay, so now when I take 2/3 of 24 pi, here's how I like to do it. I take the 24 pi, multiply it at the top. Now I'm not actually going to multiply it yet. I'm going to write it like this: 24 pi times 2, and put all of that over the 3. The reason I do it that way is because if I divide first, it actually gives me smaller numbers. So like 24 divided by 3, I can turn that into an 8 pi times 2, which is going to give me 16 pi yards. Cool. Now if you multiplied first, you would get the same thing. That's 48 pi over 3, which also divides to equal 16 pi. So you can multiply first, you can divide first, it's up to you, but that should be your answer for number 3, 16 pi yards. Now for sector area, it's very much the same idea. A sector is a little slice of pie like this. It's a slice out of the whole circle. So imagine if the circle was here, that would be considered a sector. So now to find the area of the sector, use the area formula for a circle. But just like with arc length, since this is not the whole circle, to figure out the fraction, do x over 360. Number of degrees over 360. In this case, our radius is 12, and our x is the 45 degrees. So that's going to look like this. Area equals pi times 12 squared times 45 over 360. Cool. Alright, now 12 squared is 144. Put the pi after it, and then let's simplify this fraction. Now if you notice, 45 is a lot smaller than 360, so something I can try is I can take 360 and divide by 45. See how many times that goes into it. So if you look here on my phone, I'm doing 360 divided by 45, which gives me 8. In other words, this fraction is 1/8 of the circle. So just like before, take this 144 pi, multiply it up top. Since I'm multiplying by 1, I'm really just doing this. 144 pi over 8. When I divide 144 by 8, that gives me 18 pi. And since this is area, make sure your units say centimeters squared. Cool. Okay. So that gives you a good example of arc length and sector area. We can do one more just to show you arc length again. So for this one, arc length, remember your formula for that? Pi times diameter times x over 360. In this case, radius is 12, so diameter would be 24. And then the angle is 150. So it's going to be 24 pi times 150 over 360. Make sure you simplify that fraction to make your life easier. So it's going to be 150 over 360. Again, you can cancel the zeros, giving you 15 over 36. I know both of these numbers are divisible by 3, which gives me 5 over 12. And I can already tell that's not going to simplify anymore. So here's what I'm doing. I'm doing 24 pi times 5 over 12. Just like before, take this, move it up to the top. So 24 pi times 5 over 12. Cool. And now I could do the same thing I did the last two, where I divide it first. But just to show that you can do it this way, I'm going to show you that we can also multiply first. So I'm going to do 24 pi times 5, which is 24 times 5, gives you 120 pi over 12. So 24 times 5 gives you 120. And keep the pi. Now, divide that by 12. 120 divided by 12 is going to be 10 pi. And then units should be miles. Cool. So that's just to show that you can either, after setting up the fraction like this, you can either multiply at the top first and then divide, or you can divide first and then multiply like we did on the other examples. But either way you do it, you should be able to get the correct answer, no problem. Cool. And if you'll notice, the numbers that we were working with divide more nicely if we don't bother changing pi until the very end. That's why a lot of times we like to leave our answers in terms of pi. Cool. So if you guys have any questions on this, make sure you're coming to those virtual office hours. If you can't make it to those, make sure you're sending me ESB messages. I'm trying to reply to those as quickly as I can. Have a great day. Hope this video finds you well. See you on the next one.